Welcome back to Ultra Uncovered. I'm Russell Ditsworth, joined as always by Corinne Shalvoy. We are here today to talk about another event that we can feature on the podcast. This event is a little different than what we might normally cover. We're usually covering an event in an amazing scenic area. We're talking about the trails. Today, we're going to talk about track. Corinne, what race are we talking about today?
Yeah, so you may have heard of Diamond League and many other invitational track events. This is the ultra running world's version of an invitational, and it is the Desert Solstice Invitational by Aravaipa Running. It's an event that started in 2010. It is always in December, and so December running in Arizona is a great time of year to be running in temperate weather. And this is, yes, our version of an invitational by invite only. We'll talk a little bit about how you qualify or how you actually could get into the event or attend or participate in the event. But it is something that, kind of is, like you said, a unique discipline within the sport. So there are things like backyard ultras where you run a 1.4 mile loop every hour on the hour for as long as you possibly can. This is an event that is both a timed event. So you may have heard of some races being a 3 hour, 6 hour, 12 hour race where you're just going by time and seeing how much you can run in that time. So this is both a timed event in that it is a 24-hour event, and it is also something where they recognize the 100-mile distance, and people that are purely going to go by speed to see how fast they can possibly run 100 miles might come to the Desert Solstice Invitational and run around a track for 100 miles.
And Corinne, why was this created? USATF holds championships at these ultra running distances, 100 miles and 24 hours. And there are world championship events that you can go compete at these distances and at that time, 24 hours. There's not a 12-hour world championship. There's a 24-hour world championship. So they hold this event, and it really is geared towards breaking records. And they say on the website there have been over 100 American records, and this is across age groups and across 100 miles and 24 hours broken at Desert Solstice. And there have been over 15 world records broken at Desert Solstice. They really do set this up and try to set the stage to allow athletes to be able to make teams. That is one of the primary purposes, and to break records and just to see what is possible. Like Kipchoge says, find out that no human is limited, right?
Yeah, I think we need Kipchoge to jump into Desert Solstice one of these years and wear his disco shirt, his Radical Airflow Nike shirt to Desert Solstice and see what he can do out there. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, it is in that vein that it really is intended to have people setting records, to be a controlled environment that is sanctioned, that is somewhere where people can go and try to not only maybe break these records, but also hit standards that would qualify them for one of these world championship teams. And this is one of the places that you can do that. So you can go there also with the intention of, I want to run, just like we see standards in other sports and events of, got to get your Boston qualifier. Maybe you want to get your 24-hour qualifier. And there is a standard and a B standard for both men and women in the event. We'll talk about what those are, of what the minimum threshold is, but that's essentially qualifying you or proving that you can cover that distance in 24 hours to then be considered for one of these world's teams. And the World 24-Hour Championship did just happen a couple of weeks ago. And I think the women's American team got fourth place. They ran very, very well. There were records broken at that. And it's just, I did not tune into that live stream, but I did see some of the clips of the footage, and people are it's just they're like on death's door, like getting as many miles as they possibly can and using the exact same muscles over and over again to do it, in this very, very short circuit. So it's kind of like, in a way, maybe one of ultra running's closest comparisons to what you would see in like a marathon project type setting or an Olympic trial setting where it's like everything is geared toward allowing these people to do whatever they can to be successful there. And we'll talk about how it's set up a little bit more too.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens on the Central High School track, and they really only allow 2 lanes to be open. So the invitational is, I think, cut off at around 25 people. And they have some very specific instructions on like, hey, the inside of lane 1 is for when you are moving and going.
Mhm.
The outside of lane 1 is for passing, and then it just continues to progress to where the outside of lane 2 is like, hey, I've completely blown it. I'm no longer going for my record. I'm just walking out here. That's what that lane is for. Um,
Yeah.
but it's one of these things, and it's interesting, right? I do think that a lot of ultra trail athletes get very curious about what they might be able to do on a flat fast 100 miles or a flat fast timed event like 24 hours. Like, I'm going to throw some names out here of people who um, have participated in Desert Solstice who we would all think of as ultra trail athletes who were obviously curious about this distance and this discipline. So folks like Courtney DeWalter has been here twice. David Laney has been at Desert Solstice. Arlen Glick has been at Desert Solstice. Mark Hammond has been at Desert Solstice. Ryan Montgomery has been at Desert Solstice. And these are names that you don't necessarily think of when we're talking about the US 24-hour team or the US, 100-mile championships. Zach Bitter is a guy who this is his discipline, right? Like the 100-mile distance as fast as you can on the track. Some other names you might think of, Olivier LeBlond is a name who this is kind of his discipline. Things like that. Camille Herron has done great at Desert Solstice. So we'll walk through the records too and some of that stuff because it's pretty interesting. And then maybe we can do some prognostication on who you think should come over. Who do you think would be good at this kind of a discipline?
Yeah. And it's really fascinating to start to think about because as we see the sport progress, right, Javelina 100 just happened a couple of weeks ago now, from when we're recording. And you and I were talking about offline that, how would someone like a Will Murray do at Desert Solstice? Well, he just ran 12:10 on trail with 7,000 feet of climbing total in that 100 miles, uneven surface, rocky terrain, and 12:10 like is insane. So thinking about, and we're going to talk about what some of the records are, but how does that translate into being on a flat, fast track surface with potentially super shoes, but yet it's a 400-meter track that you have to, we're going to talk about the format and how it plays out too, but how would that translate over? How would that time work at something like a Desert Solstice? And so it's a really interesting thing to ponder. And, it's also, I think, something that certain athletes, it's really clear in ultra running that like you can go explore so many different types of running to figure out what are you good at. And you might find that your superpower is that you can stay mentally engaged in a very monotonous setting for a really long time.
Well,
That's something
let's
that's
just dive
specific.
into that real quick. You said
Yeah,
Will Murray, 12 hours, 10 minutes at Javelina, which is like a 7:17 pace, average
correct.
pace.
Yep.
The 100-mile discipline at Desert Solstice, only Zach Bitter has gone faster than that at this race. And there have been 15 editions. This year will be the 16th edition of Desert Solstice. The A standard for 100 miles is 14 hours and 15 minutes. there was probably 10 guys at Javelina that broke that and would be qualified for the A standard
Mm-hmm.
at the 100-mile race there. So yeah, so his time at Javelina compares very favorably with even some of the best times here. Now, the world record is quite a bit faster, right? 10 hours and 51 minutes, and that's Alexander Sorokin. He's the international Lithuanian who has broken both the 100-mile record and Giannis Koros's 24-hour record. And is just kind of a superstar, just like you're saying. He is just locked in at that pace and can hold it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do find it very interesting on the American side, the athletes that are good at this discipline. And we'll talk about him, but Nick Curry is another one of those athletes who, you put him up against, trail ultra runners at Western States and Hard Rock, and he's a top performer, but he is an absolute outlier and superstar at the 24-hour distance, a 24-hour
Yeah.
time period.
Yeah. So maybe we separate it out and we talk first about 24-hour and then we talk about 100-mile.
Cool.
So let's talk about the 24-hour. So this is essentially, yes, 24 hours straight of running around a track. One of the questions that we pondered, right? Do people get hurt running around the track in the same direction the entire time? They do not do that. They switch directions every 4 hours. So, yes, there's monotony, but maybe you're getting slightly different muscles working in switching every 4 hours. So maybe that's also a strategy some people would take in breaking down the event into 4-hour chunks. Like I'm going to go run 4 hours, then I'm going to turn around to go 4 hours again. And so the 24-hour, like you said, American record, is held by Nick Curry. He set it in 2021, and he covered 173 miles in 24 hours. On the women's side, American record is Camille Herron, 2018, 162.9 miles. So again, I think case in point of the longer the races go, the smaller the gap between men and women, oftentimes. So that's not too different of a distance covered in 24 hours. But then what are the world records? Men's 24-hour is like you said, Sorokin, and it's 319.614 meters.
It is 198 miles.
Okay, 198 miles.
The previous record was by Giannis Koros, which was thought to be pretty unbreakable. Not many people had come anywhere close to his 188 miles. And Sorokin topped it by, around 10 miles, which is
And didn't he
significant.
only set that just a few years ago?
Yeah, it's within the last 5 years that has set that record. And Koros's record has stood for decades.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was 2022, and it was now this could be done on a track or a road, correct?
For 24-hour,
Because I think he set it on a road.
Okay, then I would agree. Yeah.
In Italy, the IAU 24-hour European champs in Verona, Italy in 2022, September. Yeah, so that equates to 7 minute 15-second miles for the entire 24-hour period.
Yeah,
So
incredible.
just take what Will Murray did, put it on a track or a road, and double the time amount.
Yeah. And just for some frame of reference, the 6 members of Team USA who just represented the US on the guys' side for the 24-hour, you can post a 24-hour time on a track or on a road to qualify. And I think that the minimum, like they all basically exceeded over 150 miles in an event to qualify for that. And even at Desert Solstice, the A standard to run the event and do the 24-hour, if you're going to use that, is 145 miles or 134 miles. I do have a little bit of experience in the 24-hour race. I ran the
You
Palmer
jumped
Death
into
Race.
one. You jumped into one this
I
year.
I jumped into one this year, and what was absolutely fascinating is to your point, women in this event can absolutely outshine any male competitors. And the woman who won set the course record, and she ran 123 miles, I think, something in that ballpark, and over 10 people broke 100 miles, which has never happened in that event. But now we're talking kind of that next echelon, even 134 and 145 miles. I think the women's B standard is 120 miles. So the course record at this Palmer Lake race is basically the minimum standard to compete at Desert Solstice.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's touch on the women's 24-hour record because it was just set in October of 2025 by a 46-year-old woman, Sarah Webster, um, from Great Britain, and she ran 173.127
Whew.
miles in
173. Okay. That's
24 hours.
amazing.
And so again, like also something like from an age standpoint, like, you know, you got a 46-year-old woman setting the world record here. And that is a long way to run in 20. And that was on a track. Or like it was a track, but I think it was like a point. It was maybe longer than 400 meters, I'm pretty sure. Somebody's
Okay.
probably yelling into their
It was
phone.
at the World Championship event. So
Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah.
regardless,
Which was over in France, I believe.
yep. Yep. It was this year in October.
So 24 hours, still maybe an outlier type of very, I would say that is a very different event from how fast can you run 100 miles. Is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of 24-hour?
I think we can get into the strategy pieces at the end because I think they're a little bit similar between 24 hours and 100 miles in terms of the things that I want to talk about. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it, it really is a mindset shift, right? Like um, you've got to think about like your pacing and exactly how you want to execute over this time period. And it is a absolutely fixed time period. So it's not like you're not playing the mental gymnastics like you might with a backyard where it's like you just don't know how long you're going to go. Like it depends on your competitors. This absolutely has the characteristics of a very confined variables. Like every variable. Even weather. Like sometimes that one of the big events in this discipline is 6 days in the dome in Indianapolis, and there are, 72-hour records and 6-day records, but a lot of people go for 24 hours or go for their fastest 100-mile inside where they're even uh, controlling the environment and the
The
weather. So
temperature and the humidity and
it's
all that.
it's
Yeah.
really just one of these disciplines that we're just extending, right? But we're trying to control all of the other variables as much as possible.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I
yeah.
would say that in a 24-hour event, right, something like nutrition becomes so much more important than it does in 100, even 100 miles. I mean, it is very important in 100 miles, but if you're running for 12 hours or 13 hours, there is something to be said for the fact that after 13, 14, 18 hours, your body acts differently, and you need to, some of the stuff that you did early on, can catch up to you. Um, and really affect you. And one of the examples of that, I was re-listening to Zach Bitter talk about 24-hour events, and one of his early experiences with his first one. I think early 2000 or early 20, what was that, 2020? So early 20. I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago that he ran Desert Solstice. And he just talked about that his goal was to run for all 24 hours and to complete the time. And he ran very, very well through about 78 miles. And then the wheels fell off and he started having physical issues come up. He had nutrition stuff. And he did complete the full 24 hours, but it just became a very, very different experience after 8, 10, 12 hours than anything else. So I think all that to say that there are probably people who, you know, they just have that insane fatigue resistance, and some of those, abilities that really are gonna allow them to succeed at something like this versus just trying to run super, super hard for 100 miles.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's different at the elite level where, it can be a reasonable goal for somebody to run the entire time, both in the 100 mile and in the 24 hour. Um, what I would say for amateurs that are doing this type of discipline, I do think that practice, like trying these events and practicing them is the best way to get better at them. But I also think that does need to be some sort of reasonable strategy with pacing, whether that's and what I'm talking about is like planned breaks where you're
Mhm.
not running, where you're not physically running. Because
Yeah.
I do think there is a certain fitness level to actually be able to physically run the entire time in both of these cases. And I think it's pretty elite.
Yeah.
But almost anyone, I think, with a good strategy can complete, say, 100 miles in 24 hours. I saw a guy at Palmer basically walk the entire time and get to 100 miles. I don't know if he ever picked up to a jog, but he had a strong walk.
Yeah.
And believe me, when I was done running, my walk was not 14-minute pace. It
Yeah.
was a lot slower than that. So it's a very interesting discipline. I just think it breeds a lot of creativity with how you approach it, and kind of the mental strategies that you use to be successful.
Yeah. Just knowing you're going to be out there for 24 hours, no matter what distance you cover, and thinking of it more as a from a time standpoint. What was intriguing to you, Russ, about wanting to try to do a 24-hour event?
Well, it was just that. It was, I think it's very easy when we get into a fixed distance event that you think like, okay, I'm in this 50 miler and you're coming towards the end of a 50 miler. And if somebody told you that actually the race is 100K now, I think most people would just quit at 50 miles because they've put it so much in their mind that
Mhm.
that distance is the end goal. It's the same reason why when we're out on a training run and it's a 20-mile training run and we finish the 20 miler and we think like, how in the hell are we going to do an ultra? How the hell am I going to do a 50? Like I feel pretty wrecked after this 20. It is very much a mindset shift. So what was interesting to me was I wanted to go into this thing thinking like I want to try hard the entire 24 hours.
Mhm.
Um, and see where that yields and see if it means, if I had an arbitrary goal of like I want to hit 100 miles, then I would have done everything possible to finish that 100 miles at exactly 24 hours and do the minimum to get there, because that's just how my brain would work. But if I remove that distance goal from my brain and I just work on trying hard for 24 hours, what's really possible? And so that was what was really intriguing me about that format.
Yeah. And I think some things that are like or a couple other reasons why these timed events are really interesting and maybe useful for for everyday people is, say that you are training for a 100 miler but you've never run more than a 50K or a 50 miler, and it's like, oh, here is an opportunity for me to go run for 12 hours.
Yes.
Like I could go experience time on feet for 12 hours, and it might give me the confidence to go into, a 100 miler knowing I've been able to keep moving for 12 hours. I practiced nutrition for that long, of gear and all of those things. So I think like you can use those too as a way to incorporate maybe into your training and also work on the mental game of this is what I'm going to experience in a future event, and therefore I'm going to put myself in something where I need to be out there for that time duration.
Yeah, supported, controlled. Think about if your worry is like, okay, I'm going to do UTMB. I've never run through the night. Like, what better way to practice trying to
Right.
run through the night? Um,
Hmm.
and get kind of that experience right away. Everyone at you, it's a night start. It's 6 p.m. start. Everyone goes through the night. Most
Yeah.
hundreds, most people go through the night. It's really just you know. the fastest to that get to go to bed at night for the hundreds. But
Yeah.
I just think it's a great controlled environment. The race that I did was a month before the Javelina 100, and there were a ton of folks that were out there in preparation for Javelina and doing, okay, I'm going to go do, I'm going to do 12 hours or I'm going to do 100K
Yep.
and I'm going to, see how I feel, through that. And I'm going to, I can control my fueling and I can control my hydration and I can control my cooling and I can practice all of these things. So,
Right. Yeah. Shout out to Christina Rainieri. She
yes.
did just that. And her husband, Doug Rainieri, did a different version where he did our 58-mile Rampart Range Road FKT route, also in preparation for Javelina. Both of them ended up finishing the Javelina 100 and were successful in that. And you saw Christina out there while you were running too, I know.
Christina and Doug were out there. Doug was out there helping too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great seeing those folks and others that were out there in preparation for Javelina. The
Nice.
Death March running company crew were all out there as well. There was 6 or
Oh,
7
I
of
got
those.
the shirt on.
You got a
Your
Death March shirt on? Okay.
your pace or mine. Death March running company. Yeah, it's
Love
a
it.
good one. It's a good
That's a
one. So
great one.
they're a great company and they had a great support crew and they
Yeah.
turned me into a trading card. So that's pretty cool.
Spildren of the Corinne. Go check that
Yeah,
out
I
if you
forgot to
haven't.
give you on a run. I have a trading card for you.
That's awesome. The other theme that I like is that all miles can be beer miles. That's
Yeah.
another
Oh,
one.
Graham has that shirt on today. Yeah.
Does he really? Okay. Yeah. I love that one.
I wanted to look back at Ryan Montgomery's because I was really curious. We've had him on the podcast. I wanted to talk about his 24-hour. So that was in 2020, and he ran 154.7 miles in 24 hours.
Okay. So that to me, that's in team qualification zone right there.
Yeah. He was second place in second male and second overall that year in the 24-hour. And he was only 26 years old when he did it. And so this is not something that is just for people who are phasing out of their, competitive careers. You can use that speed and jump into something like this. And yeah, I think let's talk a little bit about the 100-mile effort because this year in particular, I think it could be very, very exciting out at Desert Solstice. Um,
Totally agree.
we know Zach Bitter, I think, is going to be going out there. There could be other big names maybe joining, but so now we're talking about how fast can you get to the 100-mile mark on the track. And yeah, just going back, do you want to talk a little bit about the standards or some of the records first?
Yeah, well, let's just walk through the standards, and I think we mentioned them slightly earlier. But the A standard for the 100 miler is 14 hours 15 minutes. The B standard is 15 hours and 40
For the
um,
men.
for the men, and then for the women, the A standard is 15:50, and the B standard is 17:25.
Mhm.
And I think you can apply, and if you've run this standard really at any race, I think that it would be applicable. I mean, Javelina is a great one where, what did Tara run at Javelina this year? 13:30. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
just
uh,
over.
Lauren Puretz went just under 15 hours. That's in the A standard.
Beth
Renal,
McKenzie, 1550.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you've run 15:24. You've got an A standard in there for Desert Solstice if you want it. But yeah, those are all there for the 100 mile distance. And I they basically give anyone that's at the event, if you do it, if you're there for the 24-hour, you still get a 100-mile split. But a lot of people will stop like right that their stated goal is to do 100 miles as quickly as they
Mhm.
can. David
Yep.
Lane is a great example of that. I think he ran 13 something. Let me see uh what he ran.
And while you're looking that up, the A standards and B standards, like what do those mean? So if you hit the A standard in one of these, you can gain entry at any point until the race reaches a 30-person max capacity. And if you hit the B standard, you can be considered on a case
You're
by case
you're
basis.
on the wait list basically until the
Yes.
race, and I
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
This is for qualifying for the USATF 24-hour national championship.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So that's
Yeah.
the difference between the standards there and what those mean. So A standard, you're in until, and if you say I want to be on the team until that team reaches 30 people, you're on it. And if you hit the B, then you're considered, and it's case by case or kind of on that wait list and awarded performance order based on availability a week after the championships.
Yep. So Zach Bitter has the all-in, all-surface 100-mile American record, 11 hours, 19 minutes. He
38
has
seconds.
the course record at Desert Solstice, which is 11 hours and 40 minutes. He's also run 11:47 here. He's also ran 11:48 like a week ago, and is planning to be at Desert Solstice again, according to his podcast. He's not on the start list yet, but I believe that he probably has a standing invite as the course record holder there, and has proven that he can run a quick time there. David Laney has run the fourth fastest time at Desert Solstice, 12:34:59.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, another guy that I want to mention is back in 2012, Michael Arnstein, the fruitarian, ran 12:57 in a time that at the time was very formidable 100-mile time there. So, that's in like the third year of the event. And I think that he was going for the 100-mile in both in 2011 and in 2012. So, uh,
Mhm.
his story is pretty interesting, but fruitarian, he famously only ate fruit. I categorize Michael Arnstein in the same bucket as Dean Parnassus and some of those original old school ultra runners from the sport.
Yeah. So, question for you. What do you think is faster, the track surface for 100 miles or a road surface that is either a point to point or a giant loop? And I think, yeah, one thing that brings this to mind is just that some of the times we've seen run at things like Jackpot or Tunnel Hill, which technically is considered a trail, even though it's a gravel like
Yeah,
towpath. Those maybe have faster times on the women's side in particular than what we've seen at Desert Solstice.
I think it's all a function of opportunity. If there were, 10 of these types of events and people could go do them in any month of the year and run them, then the fastest times would always be on a track. But, it may not fit into somebody's season to do it in December at this time. It may not fit, there's limited opportunities to do this type of event on this type of surface. But I absolutely think that Aravaipa has set up the fastest possible way to do this if you want to plan part of your season around it, or even just give it an honest effort. I think for the muscle group situation of like, yes, it's going to be the exact same muscle group until you switch laps, and then maybe you're turning left instead of turning right on the turns. But really, you're going to have that type of repetitive breakdown in any of these, like Jackpot or Desert Solstice or IAU World Championship type events. There's just not enough variation in elevation to give you kind of that maybe benefit. It is interesting, right? Like Will ran 12 hours and 10 minutes. Like maybe he has no interest in the track, but I got to think that with super shoes, especially, like you're automatically going to get a percentage with that. You're going to, you're not going to tweak your ankle. You're not going to do some of these things. The track does give you some um,
Energy return.
bounce back and energy return. It's a sticky surface. You're never going to slip. It's not, the gravel surface, you've got a little bit of slippage. All of that leads to inefficiencies. And I think
Yeah.
that the track is just set up where if you can put yourself there in the best position to to put in that effort, it's going to yield the fastest time.
Yeah, and you also don't really have to carry anything.
Nope.
Uh, because so complete whereas like a tunnel hill, I'd imagine you even if it's just one bottle, you're gonna be carrying at least a bottle, for, sections between when you get aid. And, you brought up the footwear, so let's talk about that for one minute here. Is it completely bonkers to think that somebody should try to put a track spike on for
Y-
this?
yes.
Why?
Fast enough for a track spike. You need some cushion and comfort. You're never going under, theoretically, you're never going under 6:30 pace if that's going to be the world record for 100 miles. And I just don't think the turns, you're not going under 5 minute pace. You're not going to be losing grip on the turns because of, you don't have spikes. Now I do think, um, can you wear a carbon plate the whole time? 12 hours of carbon plate. I mean, people have done it in hundreds already at Western States and at Javelina. So I think the right athlete can absolutely wear a carbon plate for 12 hours. 24
Ryland Brady,
maybe
Alpha
24 hours
Flies.
maybe unproven. I mean, has there
Yeah.
been anybody that's worn at the competitive level a carbon plate for over 24 hours? Most people are finishing hundreds faster than that. So maybe there's a point there where there is actual breakdown. I think Camille in her 24-hour, I think she was a Hoka sponsored athlete at the time, and I think she switched between the carbon plated shoe and something with just a regular cushion.
Mhm.
Just make sure you don't get caught with any of these um,
Higher
over
stack height.
Hoka's, or the newest one that's come out that I've got my eye on is the Nike Vomero Premium. It's got a 55 millimeter stack, and on the back,
55.
55. And on the back, it's advertised, not World Athletics approved. It says it
Wow.
on the back of the shoe, which
Well, that's good.
I think all shoes that do that should do that. Uh,
Yeah, but anything over 40 mils, right? 40
yeah, you
millimeters
follow the
stack.
rules of 40 mil stack height,
Mhm.
and it's basically road rules. I actually think that the 40 mil is not legal in shorter distance track racing anymore. But it for Desert Solstice and for these longer distance on this surface, they are following that 40 millimeter stack height rule.
And we saw people get in trouble with that at Jackpot. 2
Yeah,
men both wearing shoes that were
yeah.
over, and
Raj
it's
was wearing a shoe, the Hoka Skyward. I don't think it gave him an advantage at all. It's just against the rules, and he didn't know
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
I think he pulled his name out of that one. Um, I think even there's a Nike Zoom Fly that I think is overstack as well. So you
yeah,
just have to know the rules and um, you know get that stuff checked out if you're going for records.
yeah, totally. Okay, so what other considerations, and then maybe we talk more about some of these times and what we think could be run, in on a track. But it is interesting as we talk through that, bringing up the point that there were 2 men, Raj Palapanu and Dakota Jones, both going for a 100-mile world record, and they were going for it at Jackpot,
Yep,
100, which was a paved surface and a one-ish mile loop.
that's
So
a concrete loop, tiny
different.
bit of elevation, but yeah, about a 1 mile circuit, and that's pretty common, I think, in the 24-hour and 100 mile timed
Yep.
or 100-mile confined. Aravaipa does a bunch of these. I think they do jackpot. They do one called Fat Ox, which has been the USATF 100-mile championships in the past, or USATF 24-hour championships in the past.
Mhm.
That one's actually coming up. I think it's in the end of November. Um, but they've got Nardini Manor is another place that they do timed events. And that is a USATF certified distance, but it's like a dirt track. Um, so I mean, you brought up the nutrition and, Desert Solstice track quarter mile. Like, do you have any excuse not to be on rhythm with your nutrition plan? I mean, you can pick up a gel and eat it across the lap. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could carry a drink for a lap or something like that if you wanted to get it in slower. But um, yeah, I mean, you can see your tent so often that, obviously you're not picking something up every lap, but you could pick up something every mile easily,
Yeah.
um, on pretty short time intervals.
Yeah, and I think it would be something where, you would want to maybe think about nutrition more in terms of what your effort level is at the time versus on a specific time cadence. I'm running decently quick right now, so going to aim for 70 to 80 grams an hour, something like that. But if you're having to walk, like, do you back off on that? Maybe switching between gels and liquid calories, I think could be an interesting option of, let's take a gel and then let's grab a maybe you grab a bottle and sip on liquid calories over the course of the next mile or something like that. So I don't know. It could be there are lots of different, I think, strategies, but
Well, and are we on the frontier of what a high carb activity really does for this type of an event? I mean, we just heard that Joe Klecker tried to hit something like 170 grams an hour for the New York City Marathon and did it. So, I mean, are we on the verge of like, there's no way people have applied that high of a carb solution to these types of events. So is there just so much meat on the bone right now?
yeah. I think that there is, and that leads to, kind of why aren't they more visible? I think that, Aravaipa Running and Mountain Outpost have been some of the pioneers in the live streaming game for trail running, and this is one of their earliest live streams they ever did. 2018, they live streamed Desert Solstice, and I mean, maybe it's a great pilot for live streaming because you don't have to move equipment around anywhere. You sit in one place and you talk about it. But then also, how do you fill the time when there's nothing exciting other than there he goes around the track again, kind of thing. But like they were live streaming this, and I think we've seen Mountain Ultra Trail Worlds gain popularity and, you might say, importance over the last couple cycles because there has been more media on it, because it's become like cooler, so to speak, to be on a world's team in the last few sessions. I feel like we're not there yet for 24-hour or like a timed track event from a what is important in the sport. And so I think it's going to take, and who knows, maybe we'll see it soon, somebody that people are paying a lot of attention to, or a lot of visibility thrown on an event like this, for it to maybe gain a little bit more importance within the community.
Well, and I would say this too. It's like, I don't know that there are any of these types of events that people necessarily are going to be impressed by just somebody winning the event. Like Western States, it could be any time. It doesn't matter what the time is. The winner is going to be celebrated. For these, it's pretty much like world record or bust. Like world record, American record, or it's not gonna catch the imagination of the ultra running fans, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. So, how fast do you think it could be run on the men's and women's side in the right circumstance if we got the right people onto the track competing against one another?
Okay, so my take is that if you take the world's best marathoners, if you take Eliud Kipchoge, the guy can run 6 minute pace like it's nothing. So if you can run 6 minute pace and you can do that for 10 hours, you can go 100 miles. I mean, why would the world record be anything worse than under 10 hours? I do think that that's absolutely possible. if the world's best marathoners who are running close to 2 hours for the marathon were to take a focus on a 10-hour event, could they go, a full minute and 25 seconds slower per mile in a 10-hour event versus a 2-hour event? Absolutely, right? Um,
So
I
what
think
are
if you just look at it in terms of like the deltas in
yeah,
the pace per mile, and it doesn't sound crazy.
no,
Even
it
though the
doesn't.
world record right now is 10 hours and 51 minutes, and it's very impressive. Obviously, it's a fantastic time, but is it with high carb and with extreme focus, could somebody break 10 hours? I think absolutely.
So what do you think are the top 3 things? We could each give our top 3 things that would prevent that from happening, because
Motivation.
okay.
Money and motivation. That's like two and a half
No,
out of
no,
the
no,
three.
like, what would be the detriment of the person during the race? Like, what
Oh,
happens
okay.
to them that makes that causes them to not be able to complete that? If you put, 10, 2 10, 2 15 marathoners all on the track at the same time, what takes them out in a 100-mile attempt? I
If it's
think the
what,
first one, I think, is nutrition.
yeah, if it's their first attempt at this type of a thing, nutrition is going to be just, they will absolutely be destroyed by that.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think the
there,
physical
there could
something
be, there absolutely could be. You hear a lot, right? Like somebody does their first ultra and they're extremely sore afterwards. They do their second ultra, maybe it's similar like performance, and they're like, man, I recovered way better the second time. Like, do we know why that is really? Like, you even hear people like David Roach talking about like how well he's recovered from his 100-mile attempts. Over the
Mhm.
past 2 years, there have been four, very successful 100-mile attempts. And he's been pretty outspoken to say that, his recovery from each one is like almost progressively better.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think I think that's a normal phenomenon. And I think a well-fueled athlete will continue to, um, recover better and better from those types of efforts. So
Yeah.
yes, nutrition would absolutely take him out at first. Probably in the form of like cramping and missing, electrolyte balance, and yeah,
I'm thinking
cramp
like stomach
a cramp can
stomach
take you out.
yeah, or I'm thinking well, and that reminds me that Zach Bitter mentioned that he went to use the restroom, which we didn't mention, but they do have porta potties right off of the track in 2 spots on the lap. So there's 2 porta potties in a 400-meter that you can just pop over to and go in. And he said that he went to go to the bathroom, and the second he stopped, he cramped, and then he sat down, and that cramp went all the way from his calf up to his hamstring. And that's what ended up being his downfall, is that then he had to go back to aid, stop, warm it up, massage it out, and then he could run a little bit, but then he would have to walk and it would cramp back up again. So I think, yeah, cramping huge and very real. But yeah, also I'm just thinking like people's hips or like backs or something else that is just starting to get super fatigued in this kind of scenario. I think could also be your feet. I don't know.
Yeah, and I may be misremembering this, but I also think Zach Bitter in his best 100-mile performances said that he had like less than a minute of stoppage time overall.
Can people nobody can run along can people run alongside you on the track
Uh, they do say that
and
if
through you?
other people in the event are going the same pace as you, and there's no real rules around like, whether they're pacing you or not. Like, it's not like
So
they
you
can't be
cannot
next to you. You can't
get
have crew people run
get
along with
screwed on the
you.
move.
They can hand you stuff, but I don't think they can run along with you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be then it could just be no stoppage time and you just running alongside.
I mean, think that's pretty much what Zach did. Was like he had to go to the bathroom one time, and that was his whole stoppage time for 12 hours, or for 11:19, under
Yeah.
12 hours.
I
Um,
just I just read that Sarah Webster ran in the Hokamak X
okay, okay.
for our world record that she set. So that is absolutely a
All right,
Sound okay?
I'm gonna read off some entrants for the 2025 Desert Solstice, and I feel like there's some names that are missing here. But I see Pete Kostelnik, or Kostelnik, Bob Hearn. So Bob Hearn is in the 60 to 69 age group, and if you saw Bob Hearn at Javelina, I'm betting you did not guess he was in the 60 to 69 age group.
That's something else that people go to set age group records at these events.
Absolutely. There's age group, American and world records at these events.
Yep.
Um, let's see here. Chris Danucci is on this list. That's a name from the
Danooch.
past. The
Danooch.
Danucci. Georgia Porter is on this list.
Woo! That's
And then,
exciting.
Aravaipa Running's Alyssa Jones is also on this list. So
Okay.
who do we think is missing from this list? I mean, is David Roach's name missing from this list?
I don't know, maybe. No comment.
No comment. Okay, so then just prognosticate. What do you think David could run at a flat 100-mile? Uh, he does these week of the race, like I'm gonna keep it, zone 2 and, kind of flush things out. He's moving pretty quick in zone 2. So do
Yeah.
you think he can fuel himself and run? I think he runs those. He does those between 5:30 and 6-minute pace.
Yeah, so I gotta pull up a calculator here, to see what it would be, but I think I would have to say probably looking at I'm gonna say something like a 10:40,
Yeah. I think he could
10:30.
break. I think he could absolutely break the world record in a 100-mile track.
I think
Um,
so, and that
so what 10:40? What does that equate to pace wise?
so
6:30.
10:50 is 6:30s. 6 minute 30-second miles
It's
equates
like
to 10
6:25,
hours
6:20,
50. Hmm?
6:25, 6:20.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And then the question really becomes like, is this a situation where going 5 seconds per mile faster over that course of amount of time, like, is so much harder than it sounds like it would be?
Yeah, yeah,
At what point does it start to be like, well, a 6:20 for 100 miles really feels like a 5:50? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. Well, and
Um,
6:26. That I know that number because that's a 40-minute 10K. So that's just 16 of those in a row.
6:25 per mile would be 10:41:40.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. I you know, I don't know many better places to put a pin in it for Desert Solstice, but I think a prognostication of a world record in the 100-mile is as good a place as any. Um,
Yeah, I think
I
that's
love to
great.
see it. I'm going to be paying attention coming up here in December and see who else gets added to this field.
Yeah, let us know. Would you ever do a timed event?
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in trying to run a super fast 100 miler? What questions do you have about the whole thing? And maybe, maybe we'll have an opportunity to talk to somebody who runs this year and get some feedback from them on how the whole thing went down. Is there one person you would want to see attempt this, Russ?
I mean, David Roach, absolutely. Yeah. And then Tara. I think Tara would be awesome at this. Tara
I
Dower, to be
tear it
to
out.
be to be
Yes.
clear on
Now
it.
it just goes by tear everyone on a first name basis.
I mean, Courtney Dauwalter's already done this. She's done it in the past. She did it early in her ultra running career, and made the 24-hour team.
Yeah.
So she might be kind of done with this type of event. She's just going to marathons. So let's see what she does as CIM. But yeah, on the women's side, Tara Dower, what could she do? Could she go, under 13 hours at an event like that? And
I
Dave,
think I think Riley Brady, what could they do?
oh yeah, Riley, for sure.
Riley who ran Javelina in Alpha Flies.
Yep.
So I think they could set a pretty incredible time out there. So well, this
Awesome.
is
Well,
fun.
until next time, and yeah, let us know.
All right. See ya.
Bye.